Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel for another flea market finds episode. This is actually stuff I didn't get from the flea market. This stuff right here I picked from an estate. Somebody that I know that does cleanouts put me on to a garage cleanout that was underway, and he said there was some machine shop equipment there. And there was a lathe and a milling machine. And when I went out there, the lathe was an old Atlas lathe with the flat top ways, so I had no interest in that. And the milling machine, you know, it was a smaller model, Bridgeport, decent shape, but it's just not something I'm into. I'm not into reselling these big machines like that. Usually if I buy a machine like that, it ends up staying with me for life, so I don't need any more milling machines. Anyways, I did look through the stuff that was there and put together a pile of stuff, and everything you see here that we're going to go through I think came to about 135 bucks. So it was worth the while for the trip. Probably very little here that I'm going to end up reselling, but I did get some goodies. It was kind of an interesting place. The estate was being cleaned out because the gentleman had passed away. Often is the case in these situations. You know, that's when the stuff is somebody's finally willing to part with their treasures, is when they are no longer with us. So anyways, this guy was into a little bit of everything. He was into model aircraft, rebuilding turbochargers. He had a little electronics test bench set up, and this place was packed to the gills with stuff. I unfortunately wasn't able to get back there and take another look when they started to unearth some more layers. But this is just stuff that I grabbed that day. So let's reposition the camera and run right through this stuff. This item here, I actually had to climb over quite a bit of stuff to get to the shelf that I spotted it on. And there was actually two battery chargers there side by side. And I ended up getting this, out of the 135, I think this accounted for around 10 or 15 bucks of it. This is a Schumacher SE series battery charger, and this is a fully automatic with engine start. So I have my big wheel around charger, which has plenty of get up and go. Sometimes I want a little bit of a smaller charger, and then I have those modern Schumacher chargers that they use inverter technology and they're microprocessor controlled. And those are pretty good if the battery's not completely dead, if you just want to recharge it overnight, or if you just want to maintain the battery. But sometimes you get a battery that's just completely dead, and sometimes that microprocessor charger just does not want to wake it up, and you need something with a little more oomph. So this has got an actual transformer, and I can tell from the weight this is the old style technology, but it still has microprocessor control built into it. So it's got kind of like, well, I don't know if you want to call it the best of both worlds or not, but it also has a 75 amp start boost rating. So that, you know, would mean if you get a battery that's not completely dead and just needs a little bit more help, you could put this thing on and it would act like a booster pack. So for the money, that was worth it to me. I mentioned that the guy had a electronics test bench. It seemed like a lot of the test equipment was already gone. I don't know if somebody had been there before and pilfered it or not, but I spotted this still sitting there. This is a Fluke 8000A multimeter, bench DVM, digital voltmeter. So, you know, this does AC and DC voltage, resistance, and I think it even has current. There's even a pair of test leads that were still on it that are actually in pretty decent shape. It's got the cord with it. It works perfectly fine. It's just dusty. I got a soft spot in my heart for this model because way back when I had my repair shop and I was doing TV repair, this exact same model was on my bench. And I did end up selling it a couple of years ago, or actually I can't remember when, but I figured, well, what the heck. For the money I knew I was going to get this for, I decided to take it. I don't remember what I paid for it, but again, it was more of a situation where I'd ask about a price and he'd say, well, you know, if you want to make a pile. So we kind of put a pile together, and then we kind of went back and forth. And like I said, we arrived at around 135 for the whole lot. So I don't know, maybe I'm into this for another 10 bucks. And then there was this here, this IRC brand Resisto cabinet. It's actually marked right on the back with the name Resisto cabinet. I think I had one of these back in the day also, and I might still have my original one, but I think the drawers are red on mine. So this is a, basically it's just a organizer for resistors, and there actually are still a few components left in here. Yeah, it looks like, no, that's pretty much junk that's left in there. I just wanted the cabinet. And again, I would have been happy to give $10 for this cabinet, even in the condition it's in. On a shelf, I found these two grinding wheels. This one is a 6-inch grinding wheel, aluminum oxide, and it's a Sears Craftsman brand. I don't know, yeah, fits 1/2-inch spindle. So I probably have a small bench grinder that this will fit onto. Brand new in the box. And this one was sitting underneath it, and I don't know what this is, but something was spilt onto this and melted. So I'm not even sure what that stuff is. And I'm hoping that it's not really stuck to the wheel too badly. But I figured I'd take a chance on it. And that's an 8-inch wheel. There was some welding equipment left there that was pretty old. There was a really old, it was a no-name welder, MIG welder, and I ended up looking it up and finding out that it was a welder that was sold by Snap-on back in the 80s. But it wasn't badge Snap-on, it was some other name. But apparently it was sold through Snap-on dealers back in the 1980s. So it was a really old MIG welder. So nobody had snagged that, and I had no interest in it, but I did find this box of welding wire. This is Union Carbide welding wire. I think it's 35 thousandths thickness. Well, yeah, so full spool of welding wire. There we go. 23 thou alloy EG, 15 pounds. Alloy EG. I'm not a welder by trade, so I don't know what that means. Well, I tried looking it up, and I guess it's kind of old, so I can't find it. I do remember that about $30 of this whole deal was this thing in this box right here. This is a Remington 480 powder actuated tool. So I have one of these now, but I have the style that you kind of twist it, open up the breech, you put the charge in, and you close it, and then you have to compress the spring and then strike the back of it with a hammer to fire it. This is the upgrade from that. If you spend more money, you can get this guy, okay? So this is a nice upgrade from the old style, because you just open this up, you put the charge in, you close this down, and then you push down and it compresses, and when you pull the trigger, it clicks and fires. Gives you a little bit more precision than having to strike it with a hammer, I think. So this in the box, plus 2 boxes chock full of the actual fasteners, which if you've never seen them for this type of unit before, it's like this. Okay, so what you got is you got a nail with this little plastic piece right here that actually acts to hold it centered in the barrel. This is an attachment that helps stop, in some situations you might want to actually have this, well, that doesn't even fit on the end of that. So I thought this was an attachment that goes on the end here, but it doesn't fit, so I don't know what the heck that is. Then there's 2 smaller boxes of fasteners. This one's only got a few left. This one's full. And then 4 boxes of charges. And they have different power levels. So there's actually a chart, and it tells you what power level to use depending on what you're fastening to what. So for instance, if you're just putting like furring strips onto poured concrete foundation, that'll be 1 charge level. And if you're doing like into cinder blocks or something like that, I guess it would be an example of something different, but a different level you would use. So I got power level 3, 2 packages of that, 1 power level 4, and 1 package of power level 2. but I think these new are around 100 or 120 bucks. He had this jug of old Carb Cleaner, Carb X by Zepp, carburetor and throttle body system cleaner, and feels like it's at least half full. And I was like, well, what the heck, I'm cleaning carburetors all the time, why not just put it to good use? So this is highly poisonous. So this looks like this contains some of the greatest hits from days of old. Toluene, Toluene, T-O-L-U-E-N-E. Xylene, I think is how you say this, X-Y-L-E-N-E. Methanol, that's the stuff that makes cigarettes taste great. And diacetone alcohol. Huh. All right. All right, well, before that phone call, I was talking about the wonders of this miracle carb cleaner. American made proudly by the Zepp Manufacturing Company of Atlanta, Georgia. So the guy had a milling machine and a lathe there, and yet there was an unmistakable absence of any toolboxes or tools. And it turns out, I guess I was late to the party, that some people had already come in and bought some stuff. So who knows what might have been there. I found this. This looks like it was buried somewhere and somebody had pulled it out and left it on top of the lathe, right on top of the ways. And this is has to be one of the roughest looking rotary tables I have ever seen. It has some real funky stuff going on here. There are tack welds here where this vernier is, where the dial is attached to the handle. So I don't know what the deal is with that. More troubling is there's a big chunk of the casting broken out here where it looks like there was something that was attached to this. You know, the T-nut goes in here, and it looks like somebody just cranked down on it so hard that they actually broke the casting out. So you get the casting damage pretty badly here. You've got a small amount of damage to the casting on this slot, and then you've got some more damage here. And then you've got where an end mill errantly hit the top here and was run across before somebody realized that they were doing that. This is the lock, and the lock, somebody welded a bar of metal on here to give more leverage to lock it down. So, yeah, rough, ugly. Could almost guarantee though it's US made, right? I'm not sure who the manufacturer is, but I got it for 20 bucks. So I figure even if I just sell it for 30 bucks, I'll make 10 bucks on it. And you know, it's a good size. So even in this rough condition, I might be able to get 40 or 50 for it. I know it sounds crazy, but these small ones are handy because as you can see, you can just pick it up and move it easily. So you don't have to have a crane just to put your rotary table on and off your mill. Yeah, I don't see. Oh wow, I just realized now and looking at it, there's a big weld right here. This whole flange apparently broke off at some point. Somebody welded it. Well, actually, I said weld. It actually looks, based on this color on the bottom here, that this was brazed, which makes sense because this is probably cast iron. All right, one ugly rotary table. I went through as many drawers and nooks and crannies as I could around the workbenches to see desperately to see if I could find any machinist items. And I came up with, well, this little metal tray, which is kind of a nice little parts tray. Handy to have on the bench when you're taking stuff apart. You throw your screws in here. There were like cases of boxes of these connectors right here. So these are from the Herman H. Smith Company. This contains 100 of catalog number 864 terminal strips. So let me show you what's in here. You guys watch my channel regularly know that I also dabble with vintage electronics and like playing around with stuff like old radios and that. And what's in here is a bunch of these style terminal strips. So see, it's got the little connection right there so it can be attached to the chassis in an old like tube type radio, and then these would be used for hard wiring components in on old tube radio equipment and anything that was tube chassis related that didn't have a printed circuit board in it. And they're all the same. They were all these little three. If I dug further, I might have been able to find some variations, but I was like, well, I'll just grab one box because I know I was going to get it for next to nothing. And now I got 100 of these. In other words, my lifetime supply of these. You know, in the past, I would have been probably giving them an offer on the entire case and then like been selling these on eBay for a profit. But there's just not enough hours in the day to get rid of some of this stuff. I got this whole tray of wire wheels. So I've got some wire wheels that I've been using that are in pretty rough shape. So I can finally get around to throwing away some of my older ones and replace them with some of these. That one says Spain. This one says France. That's interesting. Spain, France. I mean, we don't really care too much about who made them, right? They're just handy little wire wheels to have. The one milling machine accessory that I actually found and took, this is a new old stock fly cutter. It's still in the original plastic here, and I think it's an import one. I think there was actually a wooden block on the bench that looked like it would be for like 3 different sizes to sit in, but it was empty. There were no, and then I found this just laying on top of the bench. So my suspicion is the other 2 sizes were, somewhere else, or maybe somebody had already bought them and didn't realize the block was for it or whatever, and then I found this lonesome one. Oh, my mistake. Hidden amongst all of those wire wheels, there was this other fly cutter. So it looks like I've got 2 fly cutters out of this deal. I kind of look for these old calculators like this, these old scientific calculators that back in the day, these would have been really high end and would have been pretty expensive, adjusted for inflation especially. But this is a Hewlett-Packard 200LX scientific calculator. And it's got a lot going on here. You could tell just by the size of the screen and everything. This is probably a computing calculator that could be used to, actually write out formulas and stuff like that. And I haven't even looked yet, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this works. I wouldn't be surprised at all if I'm able to get some decent coin for this off of eBay. This is actually a Palm Top PC, 2 megabytes of RAM. 2 megabytes of RAM. It says here this came with Pocket Quicken and Lotus 123 CC mail. Oh man, talk about a blast from the past. Speaking about blast from the past, there was a whole bunch of old cell phones in a box, and I was rifling through them and I came across this Motorola StarTAC. And this is a dual band Motorola StarTAC. This was quite an expensive flip phone back in the day, and I think there's actually a collectible following for these phones now, so that's why I snagged this. And I think this ended up running me about $5 out of this deal, or 10. Yeah, he almost wanted to keep this one because he thought it was kind of cool too. Of course, he didn't even know it was there until I dug it out. But Motorola StarTAC. I did have one of the StarTAC models when I was younger. Don't remember which one. Looks more like the communicator from Star Trek. That noise that it would make when you opened it up, Kirk always did this thing where he flipped it open like that. I swear that some engineer back in the day was a Star Trek, he was a Trekkie, you know, and a geek, and he was like, oh, you know what we ought to do for the phone? We ought to make it like the communicators on Star Trek. And last, I got the stuff that's in this box right here. These are nice. These are Fluke Series Y connectors. So what these do is these actually screw onto the Fluke style leads that have threads on the end, and then they turn your regular probe into these miniature alligator clips. These little tiny miniature clips. These are designed to be able to clip onto the component lead. In other words, to like take this resistor and actually be able to clip right onto the connection, right onto the leg of the device. There's two of those. This is a kind of funky looking pin vise. There's no manufacturer on it. So for the life of me, I don't know who made it. This is an interesting diamond, industrial diamond covered tool. So I'm not quite sure what that's for. Pride myself on usually knowing a lot of this stuff, but that's funky. So this whole side of this tray is just filled with drill bits that have these hex style shanks on them. So these are for quick release and like impact drivers and stuff. So I figured, well, those would be handy. And then that's just some kind of a reamer. This is looks like a part of a pin vise that's missing the rest of it. Got 5 of these step drills. These are handy. This is one drill bit that allows you to drill multiple different sized holes through thin material. Here's some regular drill bits, more regular drill bits. These are large crimp-on lugs for like starter cables and stuff like that. Center drill, countersink, Weldon style countersink, straight flute reamer, spiral flute reamer. Hey, an edge finder. Maker unknown. General Hardware automatic center punch. Yep, still works. This is one of these self-aligning countersinking tools. So my understanding is now, I've had quite a few of these, and somebody spotted these on one of my channels and explained to me that this is actually a tool used in the aircraft industry, apparently for countersinking where fasteners are going to go on the aircraft so that you can have flush fasteners. So this would be just chucked into a drill on the production line, I guess, and there's a way to adjust so that it automatically has a depth stop. Another spiral flute reamer. I have no idea what that tool is. Probably junk. All right, now there's something I haven't seen before. These are drill bits that have a little shank that threads into something. Huh. There's a few of those in different sizes. And 2 pin vices. They're both unmarked, so you never know what this one's a dead ringer for a Starrett, but it doesn't have any markings on it, so. All right. So that's going to bring this episode to a wrap. If you enjoyed this pick video, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing and consider sharing the video. Take care.